Good evening, everybody in the gallery and those watching at home, and welcome to the December 2018 Manitowoc County Board of Supervisors monthly meeting. First up will be a pledge of allegiance. I'm sorry. Oh, Supervisor Hendrickson was going to give the invocation. Would somebody like to make a quick one? Supervisor Hanson, you're pretty quick-witted with that, aren't you? You've been nominated. If you don't. Thank you, Supervisor Hanson. If everybody would please rise.
Lord, during this holiday Christmas season, as people around the world celebrate in many different ways, we ask that you look down and you guide us, not only here tonight with our decisions, but leaders throughout the world, to truly make this a joyous part of the year. In your name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much, Supervisor Hanson. The Brewers need a relief pitcher. You are the man. We will recommend you. Roll call is going around. We have 22 members present. There are 3 excused: Supervisors Metzger, Holschbach, and Hendrickson. Supervisor Hendrickson might be attending. He has a medical appointment this afternoon. He might be back yet before the end of the meeting. So, but all 3 are excused. So next up, consideration and correction of our minutes from our November 26th, 2018 meetings. Motion by Supervisor Banky, second by Supervisor Baumann to approve those minutes. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried, and the minutes are approved. Additions or deletions to the agenda? I'll turn over to County Clerk Lois Keel.
Chairperson Bry, there are no additions.
Okay, then we're good. All right, we'll go right to, we have one proclamation. First of all, and County Executive Ziegler would like to meet me at the podium. I do have a proclamation. Is there somebody here for this proclamation? I know there was someone scheduled. Okay, well, Bob, I guess if you don't mind, I'll just read it from up here then, if that's all right with you. Okay, thank you. I have a proclamation for Mentoring Month in January 2019. Whereas, everyone remembers someone special, a neighbor, teacher, relative, or friend who broadened our horizons and brought a little magic into our lives. And whereas, one way to return the favor is to mentor a child. And whereas, every adult has something to offer, and 1 hour a week can make a big difference in a child's life. And the mentor does not have to change his or her life to change a child's life. And whereas, research has shown that children engaged in the one-to-one professionally supported mentoring programs of Big Brothers, Big Sisters are more likely to finish high school and less likely to begin using drugs and alcohol, skip school, or be involved in violence. And whereas, in Manitowoc County, there are many young people who want and would benefit from having a mentor. Now, therefore, we, County Executive Bob Ziegelbauer and County Board Chair Jim Bry, along with the Manitowoc County Board of Supervisors, hereby proclaim the month of January 2019 as Mentoring Month in Manitowoc County, and encourage citizens, businesses, public and private agencies, religious and educational institutions to support mentoring and give young people in our community the gift of time and friendship through Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Manitowoc County. We'll make sure we'll pass that on to the proper person. All right, next up will be a report from Corporation Counsel P.O. Conrad on the presentation on open meetings law. I had requested to do this. I don't think there's been any, quote, violations of the law, and there's certainly no mean-spirited or wrongdoing, I guess, but I do think some of us are pushing the limits, I guess, in regards to emails and when we're discussing there, so I asked Peter to give this presentation. I guess the biggest thing is I just don't want to see people get in trouble. There's no need for it and stuff, and I know we all have egos and we all want to discuss things, but there's certain times you can and can't discuss it. So with that, I'll turn it over to Peter. Should be on.
All right, very briefly, I want to cover 2 things. I want to cover both the public records law that down to about 15 to 20 minutes worth of information that I want to talk about. However, that said, if you have any questions along the way, that's probably the most valuable and most important way to address things, is just stop me, let me know that you have a question. I'm more than happy to stop and address it. Alternatively, if after I get done and you're thinking about something, give me a call. Again, I'm more than happy to address anything and help you through any questions regarding public records and open meetings law. So first item that I want to cover is the public records law. Just even as a precursor before this, the question as to who these two things apply to, open meetings and public records. Excuse me. They apply to all government bodies. So it's committees, it's commissions, it's boards, it is quasi-government corporations, it is Manitowoc County generally, it's all of our subcommittees, it is anything to do with us. So we are subject to these laws almost just as an out-of-hand rule of thumb. The first thing I want to point out in regards to, and this will come into play for both public records, excuse me, and open meetings, is public policy. The reason I'm going to say it comes into play for both is I've got the public policy for open meetings, and I'm not going to slow down for that one. The important thing to remember that the public policy in these things is that individuals, that people, that our voters, our constituents are entitled to the greatest possible information regarding the affairs of government. That's true both for public records law, which means our records are the public's records, so courts generally are going to make sure that people have access to those documents, and it's also going to be true when we kind of breeze through open meetings as well. The public has a right to see what it is we're doing, what we're discussing, and essentially there's a presumption of access and there's a presumption of transparency. This is in quotes because this has been codified in the Wisconsin statutes, in our Wisconsin law, and courts follow this and take this extremely seriously. Generally speaking, when there is any kind of a close case in regards to transparency, whether the public has access to whatever it is, either our meetings or our information, courts are going to rule in favor of the public and are going to get access to it. So that's something to keep in mind, that we do not operate in a vacuum. We don't operate in secrecy. We are a transparent government. As far as what constitute public records, I'm not going to read through this because we'll probably be here for much longer than we need to. The point of me putting this up as far as what constitutes a record is to indicate if you think it could possibly maybe eventually become a record, it is. If it's written, if it's drawn, if it's printed, if it's spoken, anything that you think, whether it's electronic, whether it's hard copy, it's a public record. So if you are using for example, a county cell phone and you are sending a text, that text is a public record. If you're sending an email on your county email account, it's a public record. There are only going to be a few exceptions in that regard, and I'm going to cover what that is, but need to be aware that if you are conducting something when it comes to official business, it is a record, and it is probably a public record. So as I said, there are a few exceptions as to what are not public records, things that do not need to be disclosed if someone asks for it. The first two bullet points here are the two most relevant ones for you, which is drafts, notes, and like materials, which are prepared for your own personal use. So if you're scratching through something and you've got some notes on an agenda, that's probably not going to be a public record. The other item that's really important is materials that are purely personal property of the custodian and have no relation to your office. Those are not public records either. So for example, earlier I said your emails or my emails that I'm sending out across the county system are public records. If for whatever reason I have an email that says, to my wife that says I'm going to go pick up groceries, that can be construed as being purely personal. That would not be a public record. Very limited exception though, and so the presumption is more than likely if you're sending it and it's part of your official business, it's going to be a public record, which means it is likely available for disclosure. Question as far as who can request public records, the answer is anyone. You don't have to know who they are. They can be anonymous. It can be somebody emailing you from some random Google account that says, I would like copies of all of your emails from January 3rd to January 4th pertaining goes the reason I have this up here, really pertains to the italicized language that I have there, which is, again, a direct quote out of the statute. An elective official, you as county board supervisors is what that's getting to, is the legal custodian of his or her records and the records of your office. That means you are solely responsible for responding to public records requests, maintaining your records. Those are your records, and you are responsible for responding to that. That said, if a public, and I'll get to this probably in a minute here, if a public records request comes in, your response, I am more than willing to help you with that response. I'm willing to help you draft the correspondence to respond to it, to compile the documents, to make sure that the response is correct, to conduct what we'll later learn is a balancing test to determine whether or not there is a reason to not disclose the public record. So while you are, as a custodian, responsible for responding to those requests, I am here as your counsel to assist you through that process. So it is not a matter of you going it alone, but I do want you to be ultimately understanding that, again, if somebody randomly walks up to you and says, you know, I'd like your emails from January 3rd to January 4th regarding John Doe, and you never tell me, and you don't respond to it, it is on you, it is incumbent on you to respond to that request. Timing for a response, it has to be done as soon as practicable and without delay. What that means is it should be done fairly soon. There is no exact guidelines. It depends on the complexity of the request. So if somebody is just looking for one document and you have ready access to it, you should be able to turn it around relatively quickly. If it's a complex request seeking all of your emails regarding something, and we have to have IS conducted a deep record search, it's going to take longer, and we'll get at it as we need to in a reasonably prompt manner. But it is something that cannot be backburnered for 60 days, 90 days, a year, something along those lines. So if and when you ever get a public records request, or you need to, we need to be working on it relatively quickly. And my recommendation is, even if we can't respond to it right away in terms of producing all of the records, we at least send a letter out saying, we received your request, this is what we're doing, and this is what a reasonable time frame is based on your request. So we can always have that documentation that things are getting taken care of. Disclosure, I had alluded to the balancing test. This first little part of that, there's a strong legislative presumption favoring disclosure. By strong, it's meant really, really, really strong. There is some circumstances where records can be withheld, but that's only if the public policy favoring limited access or non-disclosure actually outweighs the legislative presumption that disclosure is going to occur. So for example, let's see, we're in the process of selling property, which is what we are. There's probably, if somebody says, I'd like to see exchange of offers between you and somebody who's buying it because I want to, for whatever reason, we could probably hold off on providing some of that documentation because we're in a negotiating process. Once that sale is taken care of, that's going to be, that reasoning, that rationale is gone, so that record's going to end up having to be produced. So that balancing test is done on a case-by-case basis. And if it's denied, goes to that next bullet point, which is you have to identify the specific reasons and the policy reasons specific to the request. You can't just have a blanket answer that says, we don't give out personnel files because it's really uncomfortable for people to have their personnel files released. It has to be, you know what, we can't release this personnel file or this disciplinary action because it goes to a very personal setting for this individual and it's going to affect X, Y, and Z within our county operations. Enforcement, these things can be enforced in a number of ways. It can be enforced by the district attorney, the attorney general, or more pertinent, a private lawsuit, so an individual or corporation or an organization can in fact bring what's called a mandamus action. A mandamus action, in simple terms, is an action, it's a lawsuit that essentially says to the government, you are to do what you are legally bound to do. So it is to file a mandamus action. Just so you're aware, there are damages that go along with it. That's not the really significant part usually. So that's why you don't want to end up on the wrong side of a public records lawsuit. There is a possibility for punitive damages, which are essentially damages to punish you. It would take some pretty extreme circumstances to get into that territory. However, you would have to really be trying to skirt the law and trying to avoid doing what you need to do to get into that level of damages. I'm going to next now jump over to open meetings law. Again, I've got the quote from the statute, which is in italics there, regarding the open meetings law. I said I'm going to skip through that because essentially policy for the open meetings law is the same as public records. The intent is to have an open and transparent government. That's the purpose of the open meetings law. They're both found in the same chapter of the Wisconsin statutes, so you really work hand in hand with each other. The idea of the open meetings law is to make sure that there is advanced public notice for meetings, that meetings are open and accessible, and that closed sessions are limited only to exceptional circumstances. Public policy, I think I've covered that pretty well as far as what the reasoning and the rationale is there. Next question, when does the open meetings law? It applies to all meetings of government bodies. So that sounds like when we all get together and we have an agenda and we sit down, that the open meetings law is going to apply to us. That is absolutely correct. However, the definition of a meeting is much more extensive than simply that. This is a statutory definition of a meeting. What it really comes down to, however, is that a meeting occurs when both a purpose test and a numbers test are met. There's two issues there. One, members convene for the purpose of conducting government business, and two, the numbers of members present is sufficient to determine a course of action. Again, that sounds like we're all getting together in a room and we've got a quorum and we've got an agenda, and that's the purpose for meetings, so therefore open meetings law applies. Well, if it was that simple, obviously I wouldn't be here talking about this. So the purpose test, it's very, very, very expansive as to what constitutes meeting for a government purpose. It includes making preliminary decisions. It includes simply talking, discussing items. It also includes just listening, just information gathering. So interaction among members of a committee, a commission, a board, it is not required in order to constitute a meeting. An example is when we sold the Expo property and we had multiple committees who were simply going to listen to, or multiple members who were going to listen to that discussion. Anytime we had a quorum of any one of those individual committees, that constituted a meeting of that committee, even though the committee itself wasn't taking any action. That's why we had multiple agendas on those occasions. So just going and just gathering information, just listening to something that's going on, if there is enough members to make it, to ultimately determine a course of action, that constitutes a meeting, requires an agenda, requires notice. Numbers test, a couple of points here. There's a statutory presumption that if half of the members of a body, board, committee, commission are present, it's a presumption that there's a meeting. It's presumed that there is, and it would have to come up with an exception as to why not. But I want everybody to understand that it doesn't take just a quorum in order to constitute a meetings violation. So there's the affirmative power to pass an action, but there's also what's called a negative quorum, which is a power to defeat an action. So for example, on anything where there's a 2/3 majority vote, 1/3 of the members would constitute an open meeting, or potentially require an open meetings notification, because 1/3 of the members can defeat that particular action. There are other times that can occur. So for example, you've got a 5-member committee, commission, board, but 2 members have been talking to each other, and we'll get to about talking in just a second, have been talking to each other, and it's a 5-member board, but for whatever reason, 2 members don't show up. Now those 2 members alone can constitute a meeting, as they've met and talked about a particular action on that board. It is extremely dangerous to talk outside of meetings in regards to things for that reason. There's going to be 2 special issues I want to talk about. One is this walking quorum. That's a series of communications which eventually leads to an act. The idea is that one person is walking through a group to eventually form a quorum in order to come up with an action. Person X starts to go talk to person Y, gets the assurance of a vote, goes talk to person Z, gets the assurance of a vote. Well, The other special issue I want to talk about is correspondence, and it's particularly electronic correspondence. So written correspondence, good old snail mail. Responses are spread out. It's a one-way flow of information. It's fine. That's not a meeting. We're all okay sending things out. That's the good news as far as snail mail goes. Bad news is, of course, the snail part of it. It's slow. So, as is pretty common now, we are all using email and other forms of communication to talk. Whether it is email, whether it is texting, whether it is, I've got on their electronic discussion boards, that's full technology at this point, but instant messaging, social networking, whether it's Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, Discord, whatever else is coming down the pipe, that all is leading to a potential open meetings law problem. The Attorney General's opinion on this is that for practical purposes, that type of communication can be equivalent to a physical gathering and it should be avoided. So, the big one that I've been seeing is minimizing the risk on an email. So what happens with an email is somebody sends something out and says, here's a bit of information, here's a report. And what they do is they send it to everyone in the county board, and all of a sudden somebody hits reply all to that and says, well, what about this, or what about that, or I think this and I think that. And all of a sudden that leads to a discussion or other people chiming in. That's a problem because remember, a meeting is no longer just sitting down and physically meeting with people. It is just a simple gathering of people, which is met under that electronic scenario, and people discussing or people starting to get information in that regards. So, like I said, email is really the big one because it's got that great reply all, and commonly people do that. So I want to talk about that a little bit as far as what we should be doing and how to really monitor that. We should be using email only for one-way communications. It should not be a back and forth type of medium. Should be used only for administrative matters, setting meeting dates, sending agendas, sending reports. That's all fine. In fact, that's the next bullet. It's okay to distribute a report, no discussion on it, or other information. I'm just using a report generally, but whatever bit of information. Don't send replies, avoid sending replies, and whatever you do, don't reply all. Reply all is just potentially deadly when it comes to open meetings law and emails. If you have to reply, look at the content of what you're replying to, and look at who you're replying to. Again, limit that distribution list to the smallest number of people possible. That keeps you out of trouble with open meetings law issues. I want to point out that don't forget about the county board rules. County board rules actually have a lot of information and a lot of rules, particularly regarding email. Again, it basically iterates almost those guidance materials that I wanted. But a couple of things that it says is that the supervisors do not have to use email to correspond. However, if you do, it does have to be by the county's email system. And that, of course, regards your official business. It's not your personal email. The reason for that is if we get into a public records situation, somebody requests your emails, we want to be able to get that out and respond to those records response easily, quickly, efficiently, and we can do that if you use, and I'm pretty sure everybody is, only using your county email system. If you use your personal email for official business, you now have pulled your personal email into a possible public records request. We had some allusions to or discussions about whether your personal computers can be confiscated as part of public records. I don't see that as really likely, but it does open up your personal email accounts and your other personal accounts to these public records requests. Again, you don't want to go in that direction. I think that's why wisely there is a county board rule that says if you're going to email, based on your county business, you have to use a county account. And again, we're going to be able to help you on public records requests with that. A couple of other rules that I want to point out. Next, under Rule E, supervisors should not engage in substantive discussion of county business with any other supervisor by email. That's county board rule. Supervisors should not reply to an email, forward it, send it if it's going to result in a violation of the open meetings law. Again, that's kind of the broad base of this discussion. You, of course, can communicate with your constituents by email. jumping back to email, this is kind of a practical tip that I want to give you. I've got on here a Outlook web access screenshot here. I tried to blow it up a little bit. Up in the far upper right-hand corner, there's this tiny little thing that says BCC. My guidance is use the blind carbon copy of the BCC line when you're communicating with county board supervisors. Don't put everybody's name in the to, don't put everybody's name in the CC, put them in the BCC, because that way when somebody accidentally hits reply all, it only goes back to the sender. You cut it off right there. If you use that line, you're fine. I don't think it's on by default, or that's why you have to click on that little thing in the upper right-hand corner, and you're gonna see that BCC line come in. Use that line to communicate with all county board supervisors. It solves your problem right there. A couple of things for the open meetings requirements. There's notice. It has to be held in a place that's open and accessible. And business conducted, it needs to be conducted in open session. We do really great at that. That's not a problem. My concern really, and it just is a sign of the times, and we're all concerned with it, is that electronic requirements. Closed sessions, everybody handles really well. And whenever there's questions, I inevitably will get questions on those as far as what's the authority we can go into closed session. It's pretty limited, but we've got that down. I think we've got it down pretty well. Violations of the open meetings law. Two things. One, if a decision is made in violation of the open meetings law, court can avoid that decision. So it becomes very impactful for Manitowoc County as an organization. Perhaps, as importantly, this is on a personal level. If you violate the open meetings law, there is a potential for a penalty, a court penalty between $25 and $300 per occurrence. In italics there, it says non-reimbursable forfeiture. What that means is it's out of your own personal pocket. By statute, the county cannot pay that for you. If you mess up on the open meetings law and end up with forfeiture, you must pay it yourself. There's a couple of safe harbors there. You are not liable for attending an unlawful meeting if you make or vote in favor of a motion to present or to prevent the violation from occurring. And likewise, you are not going to be liable if you rely on the advice of legal counsel. That's what I'm here for. If you have a question about a possible open meeting law violation or a possible open meetings law question, call me. I'm always there. I'm always happy to answer those questions and take care of that for you. On here, I've got a couple of really good pieces of information or information materials. Quite frankly, there's a ton of them out there. The top two are the two most important, I would say, in the state. They're produced by the Department of Justice. They are the open meetings law guidance, and they are the public records law guidance. They are put out by the Attorney General's office. They are extremely well written, and they're held in high regard. Quite frankly, most people are going to fall back and rely on what's in those things. And then the last thing, which I would say is probably the most important thing, if you have any questions about any of this, call me. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you with public records requests, open meetings, just generally talk about any of those circumstances. I'm going to get back to you. That is what I am here for as the attorney for the county. So I'm going to turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you, Peter. That was very good. I appreciate it very much. I mean, I think a lot of us know what's going on, but it helps to refresh it once again. And I guess there are specifics that you brought up that even I was, I guess, not aware of, I guess. So I'll ask the first question, I guess. There's specific things in, in closed session where you can go into meetings, personal property, personnel matter, and things like that. And I have in the past, and not just my county, but probably my city as well, sends out emails, maybe not entirely to the entire county board or anything, but I've used the confidential moniker. That might not be correct?
Correct. It's gonna be looked at on a case-by-case basis as far as that goes. It might be confidential at a time. But once an action is taken or not taken, then it probably is gonna lose its reason for non-disclosure.
Okay. Thank you. And I'll open it up to the rest of the board. Supervisor Falkowski, you're on the list first.
Thank you, Peter, for making that presentation. When I was listening to your discussion about records request, I thought I understood you say, if it was a verbal request, like to me, I could follow up with it and take care of it. Is that generally the gist of what you were saying?
You can follow up and take care of it regardless of whether it's verbal or written.
Okay,
What I'm saying is I'm always here and always available to assist any of you as supervisors with a request, again, regardless of whether it's verbal or whether it's written. One thing to be aware though is if you are denying a public records request, regardless of whether it came in orally or whether it came in writing, a denial has to be in writing.
yeah, and that's what triggered my question, because if you do follow up with the request, you should probably do it with some kind of a documented response, because now you're producing a new record paper trail, correct?
Correct.
So that's generally the protection of that. If a request is issued or requested, whether by email or verbally, and the request it doesn't have standings because I don't possess the information, once again, you make the denial or the action of the request saying I don't have the information to provide.
Absolutely.
And once again, in record form, so you now have a record or a paper trail. Okay.
That's correct. Best practice is always put it down in writing, even if you are responding to the records request by saying, I don't have it.
So the best policy is probably start creating a new record.
Yes.
All right, thank you, Peter.
Thank you Supervisor Falkowski. Supervisor Benke, you had your hand up.
Copy of that?
Oh, yeah, thank you. That does remind me. I have both hard copies and I can email it out, whatever you prefer. And it will be a public record.
Email is fine.
Good call. It will be a public record,
You
yeah.
see it, yeah.
I get, is it fair to say, Peter, I guess, and I've received open records requests, maybe not so much of the county, but I guess from this more of a city standpoint, but we always run ours through the city attorney right away. I guess if I received one from anybody, from one of you, from a considered member, I would contact you automatically, even though I don't think any of us are gonna try to hide anything or anything, but I do think the best practice would be to contact the corp counsel for a little advisement on this.
I'm absolutely would strongly encourage you to do that. I'm more than happy to help you. More than happy to make sure it's done absolutely correctly and that it's done promptly and we take care of it right.
Thank you again. Is there anybody else wishing questions or comments on this matter? All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it, Peter. And then, like I said, don't be afraid to talk to Peter anytime if you have questions. It doesn't have to be just tonight. All right, next up will be public comment. If there's anybody from the public wishing to speak to any matter germane to county business tonight, I'm sorry, I jumped over a sad one, I guess. Maybe that's why I didn't want to bring it up. On our reports here, we have a resignation of County Clerk Lois Keel effective January 26th of 2019. Lois had talked to me a little bit about this beginning of the month. It's sad to see. Retirement, I'm never going to say, but it's sad to see her go. But Lois, you want to say a few words right now? We'll have more later on, but you want to go down to the podium or
No,
wherever you like, wherever you like. You can do it right here. I got your microphone on.
thank you. Thank you for allowing me the privilege of serving as your county clerk. In 1988, when I started here on a 12-month temporary assignment in the county clerk's office, my goal was to eventually come back to that office. So I want to thank Dan Fisher, wherever he is, for hiring me, in spite of the fact that during the interview, he asked me what my greatest weakness was, and I said Snickers bars. It was not the profound answer he expected, but he hired me anyway. I also want to thank Shar Peterson for choosing me as her deputy in 2002, when she was appointed county clerk. My dilemma then was that I had just had abdominal surgery and needed to wear bib overalls to the interview. She hired me anyway. Then we were blessed with Jamie Aulick, our office son, who quickly became the energetic innovator, turning our lives upside down with improved technology. But we had to stop him when he attempted to throw out our typewriter. Then he left, but fortunately for Manitowoc County, he didn't go far. This is where I get to thank you, the county board, for putting your trust in me when you appointed me as your county clerk. It's been an incredible privilege to serve you, even during the times when a few meetings went late into the night. You may recall the one in 2013 in November that ended at 1 a.m. This is a bittersweet moment because I absolutely love what I get to do here. However, the office will be in very capable hands with Jessica slated to take over. I'm going to miss my work family. The county clerk's office has been blessed to have Lori and Jessica who are smart, energetic, and exude a warm personality. I believe that I hold the distinction of being the oldest employee in Manitowoc County, and it is time I pass that on to the next one. When I walk up the steps of the courthouse every morning, I look up at that dome and I say, thank you, God, for letting me come here to work. Thank you. Thank you.
We're certainly gonna miss you, Lois, because I've known you my entire life on the county board too, in 1996, so don't be a stranger, you're certainly always gonna be welcome here.
I will be back.
At least maybe for elections you can come back to and help out, I
I'd
think.
love
She has to, okay. Thank you, and we'll have something a little bit more formal next month with a proclamation, so thank you again, Lois. All right, now we'll move on to public comments. If there's anybody from the public wishes to speak to any matter germane to county government, please raise your hand and you'll come to the podium and give your name and address, and you'll be allowed approximately 3 minutes to speak. We'll start, anybody wishing to speak, we'll start with Judge Dwayne. There we go, we're all set.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Bob Duane. I'm the Circuit Court Judge for Branch 3 in Manitowoc County, 1010 South 8th Street in Manitowoc. With me tonight is John Bellows. He's our District Court Administrator for District 4. And I'm here to basically kind of give you a little background on item L9 on the agenda, which is the resolution supporting a 4th Circuit Court Judge for Manitowoc County. John's got some statistical information for you, which I think is important. I just want you to understand, we came into this process pretty late. The caseload study that John will talk about came out in August. I met with County Executive Ziegelbauer about how do we begin the process. The County Executive has been very helpful in terms of how we go about it and wanting to make sure we have enough time to plan for things. I can tell the board, and I told the Public Safety Committee this at the Public Safety Committee meeting, if the judgeship bill passes, they plan on staggering whatever additional positions they allocate. They plan on staggering when they start those. And they were very excited to hear that if Manitowoc were to get one, we volunteered to be at the end of the line to give the board at that time the proper amount of time to prepare for that. What I can tell you in a nutshell is we are at a crisis point in terms of caseload, and Commissioner Kopp is here tonight. She could certainly vouch for that. John's got the statistics. I'll let him get into it. I just want to tell you that in the little over a year that I've been there, I'm shocked at just how bad it is in terms of how many hearings we have. They're complicated by cases that have time limits attached to them, and then you're shuffling hearings around, and next thing you know, somebody who wants to come in and get a divorce has to wait 4 months. So it's a bad situation. I'll let Mr. Bellows talk, and if anyone has questions, him or I would certainly be glad to answer them. Thank you.
Hi, I'm John Bellows, the District Court Administrator for the 4th Judicial District, 415 Jackson Street, Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Manitowoc is part of the 4th Judicial District. As Part of my role in my position, I serve on a number of statewide committees, including the Chief Judge Workload Committee. That committee is the committee planning to put forward a judgeship bill on behalf of a number of counties in the state. The counties that the chief judges have looked to include in this bill requests are those with a high judicial workload. Manitowoc's judicial workload is currently 1.22 per judicial official. A 1.0 is considered a full-time judicial workload. Part of the reasons the committee is pursuing this bill is that insufficient judicial resources hurt residents of the county where the judges are. Time that judges have to devote to cases gets compressed when caseloads get high. And the current opioid and methamphetamine drug crisis is exacerbating these issues. And I believe you're currently seeing those things here in Manitowoc. From 2013 to 2017, there has been an increase in 60% of the number of felony case filings in Manitowoc. Over that same time frame, the age of criminal cases at the time they are disposed has also been increasing. What that essentially means is the cases are taking longer to resolve. The median age of disposition for felony cases over that same time frame has increased by 43%. The median age of disposition for misdemeanor cases has increased 16%. And the median age of disposition for criminal traffic cases has increased 66%. This is significant because criminal cases can make up a majority of a judge's calendar and take up a majority of their time. Just from a broader perspective, these judgeship bills come up roughly, we are successful about every 10 years. The last successful new statewide judgeship request was 2007. My point is simply, if we are successful in getting a bill passed, you don't want to miss the boat because it's likely to be a long term before we do another one. And if Manitowoc were to be successful in getting a new judgeship, the workload would be appropriately sized for the county. It would change the workload from 1.22 per judicial official to a 0.98, which is almost a perfect judicial workload. So, as Judge said, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have in the.
Thank you, but public comment's not really a discussion,
Not at all.
but you're certainly welcome to stick around for the resolution as well that's going to come up, or if you have to go, I understand. But thank you both in advocating for this. I think all of us appreciate it very much. If there's no objection, Joel Evenson, right? We have Joel here for the proclamation from Big Brothers Big Sisters. If you don't mind, if there's no objection, I'm going to go down. Bob, would you like to come up quick, or we'll give the proclamation once again? Give you the highlights once again. We did read the proclamation before. Right. But we do that proclamation for Mentoring Month for January 2019. We'll just go generally, if you don't mind, I'll go right to once again. Now therefore, we County Executive Bob Ziegelbauer and County Board Chair Jim Bry, along with the Manitowoc County Board of Supervisors, hereby proclaim the month of January 2019 as Mentoring Month in Manitowoc County, and encourage citizens, businesses, public and private agencies, religious and educational institutions to support mentoring and give young people in our community the gift of time and friendship through Big Brothers Big Sisters of Manitowoc County. Thank you very much for your.
I apologize. I was under the impression the meeting started at 7, so I was just kind of on the way here thinking about how things have changed in the last year, how last year my son was on the verge of being 1 and he was sick and I was running through snowdrifts and I was 10 minutes late. And today I got here what I thought was 10 minutes early, but it was actually 20 minutes late. So, yeah. I thank you for this proclamation. We, in the last year, we've grown the program quite a bit, and it's something we're really proud of. We've developed partnerships with local school districts. The Valders School program, where the high schoolers are bigs in the elementary school, has been going on for 15 years. Michigan has been going on for about 5 or 6. And actually, this year, we're proud to announce that we developed a partnership with Lincoln High School, and we have about 17 juniors right now that are bigs in the elementary schools. And we're meeting again in January, mentoring month, with this year's sophomores, so next year's juniors, and we're going to have about another 20 kids come in. So we'll be looking at about roughly 40 high school kids that'll be bigs in the elementary schools in Manitowoc. So we're really proud of those kids, and that we're thankful for the support that we receive from the community.
Well, one thing I guess I'm thankful a little bit is we didn't have the snowfall tonight yet. Although a white Christmas will be nice, we can have it for several days next week. All right, we'll go back to public comment. Is there anybody from public comment or is still from the public or wishing to speak this evening during public comment? Anybody else wishing to speak? And for a third and final time, yes, Maura.
I'll begin by wishing each of you Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. I also commend County Clerk Lois Keel for her years of service to Manitowoc County. Thank you, Lois. Tonight, you County Board legislators who control the county's purse strings will be voting on two Public Works Committee resolutions for the sale of 240 acres of county-owned public assets for the amounts totaling $1.3 million. I note that the sale of these public assets only requires a majority vote by our county board legislators. I previously provided to county board legislators research and comparable commercial values along the I-43 corridor, as is the publicly owned Hecker V-Bond property. I incorporate that memo into my public input tonight. The offering price per acre of commercial land tracts along the I-43 corridor is at least 4 times more than offered by Dan Buck. No appraisal has been done, so no due diligence on behalf of our county taxpayers has been done. We literally do not know the current value of the land or its value for commercial/industrial development. If the sale proceeds, I suggest a clawback right of first refusal to the county for any sales for other than agricultural usage. The average value of Wisconsin farmland per acre is $5,904. The offer on the second property you are considering is $760,730, or $706 less per acre, which amounts to more than $100 less than the offer. Again, no appraisal has been done, so the county is offering for sale real property it doesn't know the value of and hasn't performed the due diligence to our county's taxpayers. The third item I'll address is the 11/18/2018 budget resolution, which reads in part, whereas a resolution will be presented in 2018 to the county board to authorize the borrowing of approximately $6,210,000 for road construction, maintenance and bridge repair, and $292,500 for equipment and machinery. A review of resolutions since 11/8/2018 doesn't show a resolution to borrow $6,502,500. I note that Section 29D of the County Board rules states, quote, a 2/3 vote of the members of the County Board is required to borrow funds. As I have mentioned before, with this bonding, Manitowoc County will have borrowed $18 million over the past 3 years. Even liquidating these public assets will not significantly reduce that indebtedness. Manitowoc County needs a new revenue source. Thank you.
Thank you, Maura. I guess a correction, and Todd, it's $6 million, not 6,000, right? And I know we'll be working with Baird and stuff when we discuss, I guess, our bond schedule. It will be coming up. So that resolution will be coming to the county board probably estimating, I'm just estimating, but in the first quarter of next year, if not into the second quarter of next year. So, thank you very much. Is there anybody else wishing to speak to the county board this evening? Anyone else wishing to speak? And for a third and final time, anybody else wishing to speak? Seeing none, I'll therefore declare public comment closed. Communications are shown on the agenda. We will go on to unfinished business, and there's a potential here, I guess, well, more than a potential, I think an absolute certainty, to remove a resolution approving the sale of county property to Dan Buck for a sum of $560,000, $800,000 from the table. So before we get to that, this, I guess, is a little information. If there is a motion to remove that from the table and it's seconded, there is no discussion on it, it's a straight yes or no vote. A yes vote means it will be removed from the table and will be allowed to be discussed at that time. If there is the no vote majority rule goes over, there will be no discussion of the resolution. Everybody understand that? Questions? Okay. I will turn it over to, well, Supervisor Giroux, you have your light handed, so I will go to you first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to remove resolution approving the sale of county property to Dan Buck for the sum of $560,880 from the table for consideration and possible action. I so move.
So motion by Supervisor Giroux. Is there a second? We're still raising our hands. Is it working? Still raising? Okay, second by Supervisor Dizak. All right, we're gonna use the voting thing for this one because it's essential. Okay, so please vote. Well, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the resolution, removing the resolution from the table, approving the sale of county property to Dan Buck, excuse me, for the sum of $560,880.
The motion passed 13-9 with Supervisors Nichols, myself, Bruner, Hanson, Williams, Vogel, Ballman, Hoffman, and Geimer voting no. So the resolution is on the table. Since you're the chair of Public Works and you made the motion, Supervisor Giroux, I'll let you speak first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're bringing this back just because of recent events. The Public Works Committee invited the mayor to one of our meetings to discuss this. Mayor Nichols did come with his economic development person. We talked about it. Though he doesn't want us to sell it, he does not want to buy it. He did not request for any time to look into it or whatever, and the city has no interest in buying it. Last week at the Finance Committee had it on their agenda. This isn't their purview. They handle sales of delinquent properties, people who are in arrears and taxes, things like that. Public Works is where this lies. Since this most recent discussion has come up, we still have had no interest, and nobody else has come forward. We talked about this at length for all the reasons. There was, I saw some discussion that hadn't happened before on Facebook. Somebody mentioned, wasn't this the area of the old dump and the Superfund site? It's in that area. This isn't that area, but so we felt because of these things, the city not interested, nobody else interested. The committee feels that this is a fair and reasonable offer for this land for all of the reasons we talked about the last time, and we're looking to sell it. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor Giroux. Supervisor Banky, you are next.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make an amendment to the resolution in line 38 and 39 to to amend it to read, be it further resolved that the comptroller is to deposit the proceeds of the sale into the Economic Development Capital Projects Fund for the year ending in which the sales take place. And then also the fiscal impact increases the amount available in the county's Economic Development Capital Projects Fund by said amount as said in the resolution.
So a motion by Supervisor Benke, is there a second to that motion? Second by Supervisor Giroux. Do you have that, Jessica? Okay. So, to the amendment, I'll let Supervisor Benke address it first.
Purpose of the motion to amend is to make sure that this money doesn't go to the general fund. We all know that the general fund got spent down rather easily throughout the last budget processes, and I think this process of putting it into this fund allows for an example in human services. When Supervisor Hanson and I were in human services back when we were county board supervisors, there was a time when we were looking at, we were contracting on a house that we found out that it was cheaper to buy the house than to contract or lease the house. So those are the types of projects that we could fund through this capital project fund rather than just using it in the general fund. And through past budgets, that money has gotten taken out. It's a way of protecting that money for the future for Supervisor Dufek, rest in peace, has always said, who knows, we may need to buy land with that, and that way that fund would hold that money for that purpose. So that's the reason for the amendment.
Thank you, Supervisor Benke. Any other discussion on the amendment? I guess just as a point of information from my standpoint, I'm not going to support it, not because I don't understand, not just I disagree with the intent, I guess I'm just not in favor of the land sale and purpose at this time, but even though we put this money in this account, obviously it can be changed by any time the finance committee / the county board especially at budget time. I am still concerned, and I brought it up at finance, I brought it up at budget time, that we have no unassigned reserve account, which does affect our bond rating. I guess if this land sale does go through, at least like a portion of that to start going there to look at, so when Moody's starts looking at our bond rating again for next year, when we do the borrowing, I hope we can get an upgrade, I guess, in regards to that. But that's my reasoning. Thank you, though. Supervisor Williams on the amendment.
Mr. Chairman. Supervisor Giroux, there's no one in this room I respect more than you, your experience, your knowledge, your hat. But I can't, I can't go along with this sale. Being on the city council as well as being a supervisor, there's 3 of us in this room that sit on the Industrial Development Committee. And in spite of what's going on in the city...
As a point of order, Supervisor Williams, I guess we're discussing the amendment right now of moving that money into
Sorry.
I
pass.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion on the amendment? All right, seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will vote on the amendment to amend line 39 to read into the county's Economic Development Capital Projects Fund for the year ending December 31st, 2018, and amend the fiscal impact to read increases the amount available in the county's Economic Development Capital Projects Fund by $560,880.
Supervisor Nichols, Hanson, I can't see underneath, there's any, okay, everybody's good, you need a new battery again, Supervisor Hanson? All right, so the amendment passes 15-7 with Supervisors Nichols, myself, Hanson, Vogel, Niles, Wagner, and Geimer voting no. So on to the main motion now. Now, Supervisor Williams would be an appropriate time to talk if you were so wish.
Okay, what I already said, plus, if anybody's driven down, through the industrial park, that there's so much negativity around, what's happening in our community, and it's a a spot of sunshine to drive through there, see all the activity, the potential for further growth. And we know, and I'm not talking, telling any secrets out of school, but the city is in need of extending their industrial park. And so for that reason, I can't support the motion.
Thank you, Supervisor
Well,
Williams.
yes, yeah. Everything happened so fast, and I think that's what, it was already through the budget process for the city. And given some time, I think that, an arrangements can be made where the city will take that over.
Thank you, Supervisor Williams. Supervisor Dysek, you are next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This goes back to the discussion that we had at the Finance Committee also, is that we hear a bunch of what-ifs. What if the land is worth more? What if we can sell it for more? What if we can develop over there? What if, what if, what if? What if the farmer can't buy it and that land is not on the tax rolls again? We don't have $560,000 in our coffers that taxpayers can use and benefit their needs. Economic development in that area is probably one of the least areas that would be applicable. The infrastructure requirements of that area would be phenomenal. No sewer, no water, no power, no roads. I just don't think that's where the industrial park will expand to. There's many other areas over there where it would be more feasible to have that happen. And to have this offer in our hands and to put on the tax rolls, make the farmer be able to use that land, continue the Manitowoc County farmland culture, and keep it strong, I think is very important. I think to turn down this sale is a mistake, and you're betting on a maybe. Hope in one hand, you finish the statement. I have to say we need to support this, and I know I will. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Dysek. Just, I guess, as another point of information, I guess I know this as a City of Manitowoc alderman. There is a major interceptor, wastewater or sewage interceptor that would be well-served in this area. There is water to the area of Hecker Road there, so water could be easily hooked up. And obviously, there's electricity in that area that could be easily hooked up as well. Thank you, though. Supervisor Vogt, you are next.
Well, I'm a different tact. I want to paint a little scenario on this piece of property. If I were to buy this piece of property, which I can't afford, of course, I could then go to Planning and Parks Commission in a year or two and ask them to rezone it to a commercial or industrial and go out and find a developer or the city who may be interested in it at one heck of a lot more than what it's being offered at right now. So I feel I'm going to be voting no on this to keep it where it is. The farmer can keep renting if he wants. But I think we have to look at this thing on a long term.
Thank you, Supervisor Vogt. Supervisor Hanson, you were next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple things. We talked about this at Finance, and I asked that it go on our agenda because it's $560,000. $560,000, and we're the Finance Committee. So I thought it was important enough for us to talk about that as a committee. And I think any committee on this county board should be able to talk about things going on, so it's just not here that we discuss it. And we had a pretty good discussion that night, but there are some things that I disagree with that were said that unless you were there, you know nothing about. First of all, I don't need a bus ride down the interstate to check out the 7,000 acres of farmland that border the interstate. I drive that enough to know that there's a lot of farmland along I-43. I probably didn't know there were 3,000 acres on the different exchanges in the county, but I do know this is a limited area exchange for 151 and I-43 that's developing. I love Maribel. I spent a lot of time there, but that area isn't developing yet. And Kellnersville isn't developing yet. JJ and I-43 isn't developing. This area is developing. So, I called the guy that appraises land and I said, hey, what's it worth? And it shocked me a little bit when he told me there's no formula that you can plug in land for. But he said, I'll tell you this, Biff, it's near the exchange of the largest population center in the county. That is going to be worth more than just average farmland. He said because within a mile and a half or 2 miles or a mile, you get off, you can go somewhere, be it an industrial park, be it a commercial area, you can get back on. So his experience as an appraiser said it's worth more than that. I didn't know about the sewer and the water connections. That probably would raise the price. Our last appraisal on this land, according to Mr. Neuser, was 2007. That's 10 plus years ago. We don't know what it's worth. But we're going to sell it even though we have no appraised value of that land. That appraisal in 2007 was before the Meyer purchase, before the new small Panera Bread area going there. And we're selling it for $2,007. One of the other things that came out of finance that probably bothered me the most was I appreciate you guys sticking up for the city of Manitowoc because you're supervisors from the city. Yes, I'm from the city of Manitowoc, but I have had a pride with Supervisor Benke over the years that we don't look at county city anymore. You do what's good for the 80,000 some people who live in this county. So what good is it, this development, if it were to development or an industrial park, commercial or industrial, what good is that for the people who live in Valderskiel or somewhere else? You're just looking out for Manitowoc. No, because if it's a commercial development, we gain taxes on that. We gain revenue from that for everybody. If it's an industrial park and there's jobs that people don't drive to Green Bay or Appleton or Sheboygan or somewhere else because they're right here, that's a shorter drive for a lot of people in this county. That's a good thing. Yes, the mayor said the city isn't interested right now. Well, we went to them in what, October? And said the land's available? That's pretty much into the budget process. And I think as a city taxpayer, I would have been a little upset if they said, hey, we're raising your taxes $500,000 without a lot of planning. We didn't give them a lot of time to consider it, and I'm sure we didn't sit down and talk to them about it other than inviting to that meeting. My other question is, why now? We've had this property for how many years? We've had the Conan property for how many years? And all of a sudden, we got buyers for the property. I know financially we're in good shape because the executive told us a couple months ago at finance that the lower rating, the lower bond rating, don't worry about it. It's not a problem. We're in good shape. But my question is, all of a sudden, we have buyers for property that have been out there for a long time. And are we just jumping at this? Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know. Yeah, it'd be good to get rid of it, have $500,000 in our account. But another comment was made that also grates, and maybe it's just the way I think, but the comment that, well, you know, if we sell it and the buyer can make money later on, that's the American way. My job on this board is to make sure the taxpayers get every dollar that they have, they get what it's worth. that the taxpayers of this county, that I watch their assets, and I make sure that we do that wisely. And if that means they get a little bit more later on because the land's worth more, maybe that's good for our taxpayers. I tend to think that's the American way, that the people representing the citizens get the best deal for them they can. The best deal. And that's our job. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Hanson. Supervisor Ballman, you were next.
Thank you, Chairman Bry. I agree with Supervisor Oak, Supervisor Hanson, Supervisor Williams. It seems like we're rushing into something. I mean, would you sell your house or buy a house without an appraisal? We have no appraisals on either one of these properties, the one here and the one they're wanting to sell to Mr. Sincula. That's not doing good business. I mean, I agree with Supervisor Hanson. County exec said we're in good financial shape. Let's do diligence, get appraisals, and then take a look at it. Give the city of Manitowoc, I think we owe them first crack at the land, and see what they come up with. If they really want it, they can borrow the money in a few months and make us an offer. I just don't see what the rush is. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Ballman. Supervisor Kavanaugh, you were next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At our last time we discussed this, Supervisor Hoffman had some figures, what from, I think it was some banks appraisals, what property, tillable land was bringing to the county, and I think that was pretty accurate. And within the last couple of years, I have sold land, and the price per acre out in my area is right in the ballpark of what this person is willing to pay. Grant you, like what the people had said here down the road, this could be possibly developed, but we don't know that. We have a person interested now, someone that has been renting this land for a number of years. I understand a very good person. I feel the price, as I said, is very fair, and I'm going to support the resolution.
Thank you, Supervisor Kavanaugh. Supervisor Niles, you were next.
Mr. Chair, with all due respect, I've been hearing a lot of opinions on what this land is worth, and to me, due diligence. I mean, this is county taxpayer property, and we owe it to them to see what it, at least see what this is worth before we sell it. I think this is, I don't know, a little short-sighted in a ways, and I think we owe it to our constituents to take a closer look. So I'm not going to support this sale. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Niles. Supervisor Gauger, you were next.
Thank you. This county is very strong in agriculture, and the reason that it isn't popping up, farmers are getting bigger, and to them it's a dog-eat-dog world now. These farmers are looking for land. That's why they're buying it. Plain and simple. They're not looking to redevelop it. They need this to sustain their business. We're saying no to them. We're saying no to business. You gotta remember how many jobs they're creating. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Gauger. Supervisor Swade, you were next.
Chairman. Yeah, I'm not going to delve into should we be farmland or should it be development or whatever. But I look at it as, but why are we now selling? I know we all could come up with maybe half a dozen reasons, but the one that should be on all our lists should be because we need to shore up our financial status. This may not really be a red flag right now, but to us, we should be looking at it as
kind of a yellow flag, a caution one, thinking about it. Starting to sell off assets to make a bottom line look good, be it in private or be it in public, is not in one's best interest, especially when that asset is paid for, is not deteriorating or costing more than what we are taking in on it. This is a time, one-shot time in the arm, and that when that happens, it'll be gone. What are we going to do in 4 or 5 or 6 years down the road when this happens to us again? What do we sell then? Really, now is the time to start with an open mind discussion on how we can keep this from happening down the road. As anyone knows, like you get a veteran farmer, a longtime farmer, a businessman knows, you just can't keep doing the same thing over and over and expect a different result. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Swade. Supervisor Bruner, you were next. Zimmer, I'm sorry. I saw ERs and I apologize, Supervisor Zimmer. You were next.
If the sale price is such a ridiculously low amount, then the city ought to be bending over backwards to look for a way to purchase this. What a deal they've got there. This is the deal of the decade. But I don't see any interest by the city in purchasing this land. I mean, this land has been for sale for years, and we haven't had any offers on it. You know, agriculture is business in this county as well. We ought to have some respect for the business of agriculture, which helps make us so prosperous. We've got a legitimate offer from a gentleman who's been farming this property for some time. We have a pending business transaction for the sale of a property, which, as I said, has been for sale for years, for which there have been no other offers. We've heard things like from the mayor when he spoke to us. He's talking with 6 separate business entities about this issue. Well, you know, when the mayor came to our Public Works Committee meeting, Mr. Girola asked him if he brought his checkbook with him. If this is such an outstandingly low amount of money, the city ought to buy it. Since there's truth to the old adage that a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush, I recommend that we approve this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Zimmer. Supervisor Hoffman, you were next.
I would like to make an amended motion that we amend to having this assessed, land be assessed and find out what the appraised value of it is and hold off the sale of this until we have that appraisal in hand.
It actually be as a it won't be amendment, but it'd actually be a motion to postpone a sense. So the motion, if you everybody heard from Supervisor Hoffman, would be to essentially the Manitowoc County would do an evaluation of the property and a postponement of the sale tonight until potentially after that assessment or of the land sale would be done. Appraisal, yes, I'm sorry. Thank you, Supervisor Hoffman. Is there a second? Second by Supervisor Vogel. So under our rules, this is debatable, so I will open it up. Supervisor Hoffman, I'll start with you first because you made the motion.
Just like everyone said, we've had a lot of different opinions of what the land is valued. Let's go out and get a true appraisal from the commercial end of the situation and take a look at it. They'll look at what the cost of the utilities and whatever would be to go in there and what that value of that land would be. I don't think that we're going to slow things down or make a big deal out of this. It's not going to hurt the farmer any. It's not going to hurt Manitowoc County any, slowing down and getting a
full value appraisal on it.
Thank you Supervisor Hoffman. On the motion, Supervisor Falkowski, you were next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There is some reasonable thought, I guess, to apply an appraisal of some sorts. I get what everybody's saying, but are we going to be satisfied? Is that going to be definitive enough? I think I was listening to Supervisor Hoffman saying that he was looking at an appraisal as a commercial, not as just a open land application as far as like what the assessment is. Are we defining that requirement for an assessment in that preciseness that we'll all be satisfied if this ever comes here? So it's not like, no, that's about agriculture, no, that's about commercial, it's different. I think if the discussion is going to be getting an advice for an appraisal, then make sure that it is definitively what everybody would be satisfied. Are you interested in what the value is for agriculture use? Are you interested only in the application that if it was approximately close to the municipality for the city of Manitowoc, that what the commercial value would be? That's, I guess, what you're talking about does make some clarity, but I'm concerned that if I'm not mistaken, some of this discussion had in fact been processed with emails back and forth, or not emails, not open records, but information that was passed on about appraisals over a period of time. All I know about owning property, that this is generally a snapshot in time. If you look at what the value is, if you have an interested party, that's the value, not what you think is going to happen, because unless somebody ponies up with the cash, it is not a true value. So from a practical standpoint, that's where it gets to be tricky. If you're going to get an assessment, make sure it's definitively what you're wanting to have, assess that, and make sure that this board, this council is going to be satisfied with it, not that it's going to be torn at different directions. Currently, the current use for that property is agriculture. It's zoned that way. I don't know if they'll ever get heavy lifting to get past that zoning, no matter who owns it. But right now, if that's the motion, I don't think I have great opposition to it, but neither do I have opposition to saying we could go through this, because it's not an opportunity, but it is a transaction that we could conduct, and it's not, there's no peril in satisfying this, so.
Is that it?
It is, but I know, the clarification I'd ask for Supervisor Hoffman is this precisely, are you asking for a commercial appraisal for that land? Or just in general, an appraisal of that land?
I'm going to defer to Corp Counsel Peter Conrad first, because I guess some interpretation as well on my house, but anyways.
I think what it would have to be is that you would have the land appraised. I don't think you could dictate what the potential use is. An appraiser is a licensed individual, and they have certain ethical standards and professional standards that they have to go by. So he or she would go in and conduct that appraisal pursuant to whatever it is, whatever requirements they have. You can't dictate to them, well, if it's commercial property or industrial property or residential property or agricultural property, they'll be the ones to value the property as it currently exists, because quite frankly, if you were to dictate, well, what if this was industrial property, they would say, yeah, but I don't know what that is, because it's not industrial property. So that's why you have to leave it up to their professional judgment.
Okay, thank you. But then that brings the flies in the ointment, because essentially what I understand is an appraisal will look at comparable properties. That property right now is agriculture. That appraisal will be coming back the same as it is right now. So are we just spinning wheels? Are we pushing this back for a bit? What are we going to accomplish by that? If they have to use the same appraisal method, it's going to come back the same way. That's it.
Thank you, Supervisor Falkowski, and I'll chime in right now because I guess I've been familiar with that whole corridor. You know, we started years and years ago with the sale of the Manitowoc County Healthcare Center property, and I guess when we went through that process, I was a little disappointed at the initial sale of the $2.5 million we got for that entire 70-plus acres. And at the time, and obviously we're including the development and the buildings and the properties as well, but initially it was proposed to be like a $20 million development. It's now in excess of $80 million of development. We sold the Meyer property, which was, you know, comparable to the intersection. And granted, I know this is a little bit farther down, but I guess I've been dealing with this as a city councilman and as a county board supervisor, that intersections and near interstates are very highly developable. I agree with Peter, exactly. They're not gonna come in and just say this is because it's zoned Ag 1, that they're gonna come in with that kind of appraisal. They're gonna come up with, I guess, comparables for all things, not just land sales and I guess comparable land sales of ag land, but comparable land sales of intersections, I guess, near interstates as well. I guess I'd be confident with that. And I guess now I have a question for Peter, or maybe, not maybe so a question, but more of a statement, I guess, in regard to this process. The motion to do this would essentially, in my mind, two things. Obviously, you have to come up with money for it to do the appraisal, and number two, I would assume Public Works. I guess I see Public Works working with the Finance Committee if this motion passes to come up with a resolution to come to the county board with some kind of motion or some kind of, I guess, a services with some appraisal company. Is that a fair statement?
I think this would still fall solely within the Public Works Committee. And yes, you're right, Public Works Department likely would be the department where the funds would have to come from to pay for the appraisal. And I would assume that if it were to come back, that it would come back with the copy of the appraisal indicating the value, or that the resolution would be amended to indicate that.
Right. Okay. Thank you. And thank you, Supervisor Falkowski. Back to the motion. Supervisor Benke, you were next.
I guess that was my question, similar to what the Supervisor Falkowski, but I guess I'd like to ask, if possible, to have Jerry Noiser come up and at least explain in 2007 what we asked from the appraisal company. Did we ask them to appraise it as the best use of the property at that time? And what was the cost of the appraisal?
Please, Jerry, yes.
I know that'll probably be more today, but at least we know the bottom.
In 2007, we had the property appraised by statewide appraisals. I believe the cost at that time was $3,000. The appraisal was exactly as the Corporation Council described. They looked at how it was zoned, which is ag, and what that was worth. They also looked at comparable properties that were sold for commercial use, and that was difficult because it was all over the board. But we did have the numbers at that time. I would anticipate an appraisal now would be in the same range, $3,000 to $4,000.
And we would ask them the same question, what would be the appraisal on the best use of this property? And they would determine whether that would be agriculture or commercial? Would they?
I don't think it would be determined by best use, it'd be just what they would consider ag versus commercial.
Yeah, I think.
Well, as it sits, what's the assessed value of the land as it sits? Where it's located would factor into that.
Yep.
Correct?
And you're exactly right. I think the question is, what is this property worth?
Correct.
And they build that in based on, as Jerry had indicated, what is it currently used for? What are potential uses? What have other properties with those potential uses sold for? It's always based on comparables is how they drive that. So the question is always, what is this property worth? Factoring in all of those things, proximity to interstate, proximity to infrastructure, its current use, its the type of property that it is. Is it good farmland? Is it bad farmland? Is there topography to deal with? So that's what they have to work all of that in.
Okay, thank you, Jerry.
Thank you, Supervisor Benke, and thank you, Jerry, very much. Supervisor Vogel, you were next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A lot of the things that I was going to mention were just mentioned by either the chair or Supervisor Benke. Again, this property is in my district. It is right across the street from the city of Manitowoc by about 30 feet. It's got water, it's got fire hydrant waters that were put in several years ago along Hecker Road. It's very close to where Stocks Harley Davidson is. It does border I-43, the only interstate in our county. Just a few years ago, less than a mile away, you all know that Meyer gave $4.6 million for 26 acres on land that was purchased by them. This is 100 acres, less than a mile away. I foresee, and again, that appraisal that Supervisor Benke's talking about was nearly 12 years ago. A lot happens in 12 years. I really think this property is worth a lot more, and I think it is, like Supervisor Hanson said, we owe it to the people in Manitowoc County to at least get an appraisal, find out what it's worth. A few extra weeks, months is not gonna hurt. I'm sure if it's deemed necessary at that time, Dan Buck would still be interested in purchasing it if everything's kosher with all the supervisors here. So I agree with going with the appraisal. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Vogel. Supervisor Droll.
Thank you. I guess this would be just my response to all this. We did this because the county board as a whole asked Public Works, which is what we do, to look for somebody to sell these farmland properties that we don't need or use. We're not in the land development business, although there certainly have been some things that, you know, have worked out very well for us. The only reason that we were looking to sell these now is we had an offer. We haven't had an offer in all these years for any of this property. If you know anything about land sales, it's what somebody will give you for it. And when I see Manitowoc and I-43, looks to me like the industrial park is going to move north and west because that's where the land is and mostly available. This property has some drawbacks. I think you might, maybe some of you know this, maybe some of you don't, but there's a fairly sizable digester project that's going to be going on in the town of Newton, and these farmers that are going to be hauling manure to these digesters aren't going to have to lease the land or own the land that they have in the past to spread manure. That could depress the value of farmland in those areas. You don't know about that. When everybody thinks about the potential value of all this land, it makes me smile. I own 40 acres across from the airport that I was going to build a house on, and I think I told this story before. And then all of a sudden, when we bought a different house and I put it up for sale, nobody wanted that land for 6 years. One of the most active real estate developers in the county owned the property adjoining it, and I went to him and I said, hey, what do you give me for this land? He said, nothing. I don't need it. I don't know anybody who's going to buy it. Took me 6 years to sell that property, and that was land when I bought it that everybody said, oh, what a great deal, and oh, you're going to make a killing and all this. Well, that didn't happen, and this land and I don't care if we get an appraisal or not on this, because one, I think the comparables are going to be very tough to find, and there are supervisors on this board who don't want to sell that land, period, because they're hoping that in some future date we're going to have a revisitation of the Meyer property. So if we spend $3 or $4 grand now and find out that the property is valued at maybe $7,000 or $8,000, I don't think that some of the people here are gonna wanna sell it for there, because they're just gonna say, well, why sell it? Because we can, it's ours, we'll just hang on to it, and somewhere down the road. And all I'm saying is I don't think we're in the land development business. We have a fair offer for farmland that is farmland, that's gonna be sold to a farmer, and I would sell this, and thank you.
Thank you Supervisor Roll. Anybody else on the amendment, or I should say the motion, Supervisor Mink?
Yes, just really quick. I'm buying 2 rental properties. I buy properties quite often. I got a lot of experience in this. It's a little different, but it's somewhat similar. Kind of happened to me, but it was not involving with the government. It was a bank, Fannie Mae. I met the seller's price of $49.9 on a property that I intend to make into a rental. Seller sold. It was a short sale. Bank had the last call on it. They said, no, it's 60. It's beautiful property. It's worth that. I didn't have the other $10,000. I was buying 2 properties this month. Well, I said, well, sometimes you're just not going to be able to buy. I have to walk away. You guys have a great day. My offer still stands. And I bought the property at $49.9. It gets very complicated when you're buying property. I firmly believe with these guys saying when they said the reason we're selling the property is because there's an offer. It's been for sale for several years, and that's where it is. I do appreciate everyone that wants to develop into the property. I think that could still happen whether we own it or not. Thank you.
Thank you Supervisor Mink. Any other discussion on the motion? Any other? Then I'm gonna and it's been said several times. I just want to reiterate once again, we owe it to the taxpayers of our county to do this. I had a big spiel if this motion when it came up. I guess I'm a little disappointed that for some of you it's become a city versus the county issue again, and there's no reason for that. It's not just benefiting the city of Manitowoc. But the bottom line is we owe it to the taxpayers to do the due diligence on this property. So I urge support of this amendment, or this motion. With nothing else, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote to postpone the resolution approving sale of county property to Dan Buck for the sum of $560,880 until an appraisal is acquired.
Supervisors Wagner and Swade. Well, that was the motion, Supervisor Hoffman, correct? Wait, so hold on, Supervisor Hoffman, the motion was to stop the sale until they had the appraisal, correct? So that's what we're voting on,
Yeah, it's to postpone
to postpone,
consideration.
right? So is everybody, so the motion passes 15-7 with Supervisors Gauger, Zimmer, Banky, Mink, Falkowski, Giroux, and Dizak voting no. So Public Works will be discussing an appraisal, and hopefully we can get it done soon and we can come back. Very good discussion. I think the taxpayers were well served here tonight. On both sides. I think there was very good discussion on both sides, so thank you very much. All right, we will move on to appointments by the county executive. First up is to the Board of Adjustment to appoint 1 member to fill a vacancy for the remainder of the term expiring in July of 2020. And the recommendation is for James, I think it's Knorr? Okay, yes. Motion by Supervisor Hoffman, seconded by Supervisor Ballman to approve. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried unanimously. The Expo Ice Center Board to appoint 1 member to succeed Jody Byer for a 3-year term expiring December 31st, 2021. And the recommendation is for Keith Potter. Okay, it says Keith on here, so it is Kevin Potter. On my agenda, I have Keith. Okay. Let's just say Mr. Potter, we'll get the name. So motion by Supervisor Gauger, seconded by Supervisor Swade to approve the appointment. Any discussion? See none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried unanimously. Manitowoc Calumet Library System Board of Trustees to appoint 1 member to succeed Peggy Turnbull for a 3-year term expiring January of 2022, and the recommendation is for Peggy Turnbull. Motion by Supervisor Ballman, seconded by Supervisor Williams. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed, motion carried unanimously. Veteran Service Commission to appoint one member to succeed Alan Carl for the remainder of the term expiring December 2019, and the recommendation is for Kurt Carlson. Motion by Supervisor Gauger. Seconded by Supervisor Zimmer. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed, motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much on those. Now we'll move on to committee reports. First up, Aging and Disability Resource Center Board. Supervisor Wagner is the chair.
All I have is the date, actually a tentative date, January the 4th Tuesday at 10 o'clock in Manitowoc is their next meeting. Thank you.
Any questions for Supervisor Wagner? Thank you very much. Board of Health, Vice Chair Supervisor Vogel will be doing it tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our meeting was held on December 13th. The health officer's report included a Department of Health Services state on-site review. Mary Holladay reported that Department of Health Services staff were present on December 6th to conduct a 140 review. This review verifies that the health department is operating at a level of service according to the Wisconsin Administrative Rule 140. The information for the review is collected and downloaded before the on-site meeting. And employees, including Mary, were working on this for 4 to 6 months prior to them coming on site on December 6th. The meeting discussed strengths of the health department and also made a few recommendations. Overall, the review was positive, and the certificate of compliance will be signed by the state health officer and presented in the near future. This state compliance letter was received on December 12th, and as of late yesterday afternoon, I had asked County Clerk Lois to forward it to all your supervisors, so you should have it on your county email. The WIC Director Report for October was 1,076 participants involving 628 families. The initial caseload for November was 1,045 participants involving 602 families. The contracted caseload is 1,106. The Environmental Manager Report involves a resolution which I'm going to be bringing to you tonight involving the Health Department 2019-2020 fee schedule, which will begin on July 1st of 2019. We talked about this at the last several Board of Health meetings. When Mary summarized the 2019-2020 fee schedule increases that were recommended by the board, the resolution adopts a new schedule which includes anywhere from 1 to 3% fee increase based on comparing the average fees of other counties to our current license fees. The resolution is on your desk. It's listed as Resolution 1. Attached is the fee schedule, and I so move.
So motion by Supervisor Vogel, second by Supervisor Nichols to approve the resolution. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will vote on the resolution adopting the Health Department fee schedule effective July 1st of 2019.
Resolution passes 22-0.
Thank you. Our next meeting for the Board of Health will be on January 10th at 5 p.m. at the Health Department. Thank you, and that concludes the Board of Health report.
Any questions for Supervisor Vogel? Just a shout out, I guess, to Mary and everybody in the Health Department. Great job on your recertification once again. I got the letter several weeks ago. I'm glad Supervisor Vogel sent it out. I was going to bring it tonight, but I felt somebody from the Board of Health actually doing it was better. So great job once again. You do a wonderful job. You should be commended, and your staff as well. All right, Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, Supervisor Falkowski is our representative there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We did not have a meeting, but tentatively our next meeting date is January 2nd. On behalf of the council, I would like to extend our best wishes and a good Merry Christmas to all for the boards and people watching. Thank you.
Any questions for Supervisor Falkowski? Thank you very much. Executive committee, I always, the last several months I've said we need to have a meeting, but it just, the things that I wanted to discuss kind of fade by the way, so as of right now, we don't need a meeting. I don't wanna say they fade, I should have made it was too strong, fade away, but they just weren't needed to come to, I guess, to a committee level. Any questions, comments? All right, thank you very much. Expo Ice Center Board, Supervisor Gauger is our representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had met December 5th at the fairground, discussed the possibility of maybe having a polka tent again next year. Could happen, maybe not. We finalized some vendor contracts, some indoor, outdoor entertainment contracts, discussed some of our parking and security issues. We had a letter of resignation from Jody Byer. We know that'll be a big loss because she was very important with our parking concerns. And with Mr. Potter joining us, it hopefully won't be a real big drop-off because he was involved with our parking committee before this. And he's a carpenter by trade, so he'll always come in handy for us out there. And that'll conclude my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Gauger? Thank you very much. Finance Committee, Supervisor Hanson is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a Santa Elf report tonight, short and sweet. We put 6 properties back on the tax rolls the other night. And I guess my only question then is I would gladly give the sale of all property to Public Works if they want it, just to put it all under one tent. I'm not sure how those rules ever evolved, that we get some and they get some, and Highway sells equipment on their own, but whatever. Have a good Merry Christmas holiday season. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Hanson. Any questions for Supervisor Hanson? Highway Committee, Supervisor Benke is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We met December 11th. We talked about sublease of airport hangars. We talked about STP highway funding for Highway W. Is a resurfacing project of 3.1 miles on Highway W for $1.17 million, $1,170,080. That'll be done this next year. Also, we were noticed that the 151 project that was awarded to Northeast Asphalt, which will be from Jackson Street in Valders to the I-43 ramps for $4,654,868. What are big numbers. So that's another project that you can look forward to. A lot of construction in the area, all over the place, and 151 as well. Check the overtime reports. We will be meeting January 8th at 4:30. That concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Any questions for Supervisor Benke? I know it's already been out there, and I think you didn't mention them, unless I hint, but January 2nd of 2019, the County Yard Bridge in downtown Manitowoc Rapids will be officially closed for
So if you're going to the dugout from the south, don't go that way. January 2nd, it'll be closed.
So, it's already, I know there'll be signs going up there already. There should be full access to the people who live on that area, but I think, and if I recall, Mark Olson, our commissioner, saying there was gonna be I shouldn't say problems, but there might be access might even be limited earlier than originally intended with that portion of it, unless I heard that from the city side. But the bottom line is the people that live on that area will have access to their residences. So, thank you very much for your report. Human Services Board, Supervisor, I'm sorry, was there a question? Supervisor Vogel, I apologize.
With that in mind, that it's gonna be closed for 9 months, is that gonna carry through, do you know, Supervisor Benke, right to the bridge replacement then? So in all reality, that could be closed down for like 3 years total or something?
Meeting today.
I was at the pre-con meeting this morning, and Vinton and Lunda are gonna try and finish the project at the same time. And even though there's a 9-month window, they're hoping to knock it out by July 4th. So they're starting right away. so that they can get in and out of the water before any fish rearing happens, and/or before any bat nesting or bird nesting. That's why they're starting right away, and they want to get done with that part before March. So, I mean, it's 9 months, but they're hoping to get it done, and they want to finish it all at the same time, so that they can get in, get out, and open it up to the public as soon as they can.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you Supervisor Droll as well. No other questions? All right, now we'll move on to the Human Services Board. Supervisor Kavanaugh will be giving the reports this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Human Services Board met Thursday, December 6th. Our education topic was on foster care. There's still a definite need for foster care parents. We discussed different ways that we could go about getting the word out for advertising, like for year-round versus just having the signs in the month of May, which we had done in the past, so we're going to be working on that. And our next meeting will be Thursday, January 24th, also at the Human Services Building, and that concludes my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Kavanaugh? Thank you very much. Land Conservation Committee and Natural Resource and Education Committee, Supervisor Wagner is the chair.
Chairman Bryan, the Soil and Water Conservation Department is developing a 9-key element plan for the Pine Creek watershed. The watershed is bordered by Silver Creek Road over to Highway 42 south to Northeim. The watershed plan will provide a framework for improving water quality within the watershed. The 9 elements of the plan will assess the contributing causes and sources of non-point source pollution, involve key stakeholders, and prioritize restoration and protection strategies to address water quality problems. This committee will be meeting on the 3rd Thursday of January at 4:45 at the County Office Complex. The Natural Resource and Education Committee will meeting February 14th on the second Thursday. That's the end of my report. That's enough.
Any questions for Supervisor Wagner? Thank you very much. Personnel Committee, Supervisor Mars is the chair.
We met on December 4th, and as continuing, going through the employee policy manual, I have 3 resolutions to bring to you tonight. Resolution amending employee policy manual to repeal Section 6 and amend Section 26. I so move.
Motion by Supervisor Mars, second by Supervisor Benke. Discussion on the resolution?
This resolution was, right now, currently no employees use 26.20 for a vehicle allowance in lieu of mileage, rendering this section obsolete. So it's basically a housekeeping.
Thank you very much for your explanation. Any other discussion? See none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will be voting on the resolution amending the employee policy manual to repeal Section 6, evaluation, and amend Section 26, travel policy.
Supervisor Williams, Zimmer, try again, please. There we go, perfect. Resolution passes 22-0.
Okay, my next resolution is resolution eliminating Section 9 and repealing and recreating Section 7 of the Employee Policy Manual. I so move.
So motion by Supervisor Mars, second by Supervisor Ballman. Discussion on the motion?
This repeals the existing Section 7, the investigation and disciplinary action of the Employee Policy Manual, and all the information was sent to you, so if you have any other questions, otherwise it's pretty self-explanatory.
Thank you very much. Any other discussion? See none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will be voting on the resolution eliminating Section 9 and repealing and recreating Section 7 of the Employee Policy Manual.
Resolution passes 22-0.
Okay, and my last resolution. Resolution amending Employee Policy Manual to amend disclaimer and add 14.02. I so move.
So motion by Supervisor Marsh, seconded by Supervisor Ballman. Discussion on the motion.
Whereas the addition of 14.02 to the Employee Policy Manual clarifies which employee classifications have access to the grievance procedure, and the grievance procedure does not change the at-will status of employees.
Thank you again, once again, for your explanation. Any questions or discussion? See none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will be voting on the resolution amending Employee Policy Manual to amend disclaimer and add Section 14.02, applicability.
Don't feel bad, it's hard to say, it'd be hard for me to say it too, trust me. Supervisor Swade, there we go. Resolution passes 22-0.
Okay, and our next meeting will be January 22nd, and that ends my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Marsh? All right, thank you very much. Planning Park Commission, Supervisor Dizak is the chair. Before we go, just quickly, Jessica just reminded me that technically you can't vote until it actually comes up on the screen back there. It says voting. I'll be honest with you, I don't see it, I guess, but I'll take her word for it. So you can't press your button until it says voting.
It has, when we go to the next resolution, it'll be the blue
Oh, that part,
buttons,
that's,
and
okay.
then when it goes to voting, it'll be those yellow voting buttons.
Okay.
That's when they,
Okay, so that's maybe why it's causing a couple problems, and I'll be honest, I've been jumping the gun too, so I get my hand slapped here as well. Sorry, Supervisor Dizak.
That's quite all right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We met on December 3rd, we discussed, we had a public hearing on 3 properties, which I'll get to those ordinances shortly. We also discussed and approved a variance request for the Boley Revocable Family Trust, basically so they could have a less than 10-acre plot on a general ag zoned area. We also had a discussion and approval of the industrial park site plan for the Country Visions Corporation for a new building and the drainage. We also awarded a contract for $24,953 to Contracting Pier and Waterfront Solutions to install a new boarding dock at the Cedar Lake boat landing. And we, let's see, also had a correspondence from Carl Kuhn and, if I get the guy's name right, I have too much paper here.
Well, if we would've had those iPads, this wouldn't be happening right now, would it?
Anyhow, they were representatives of the Manitowoc County Deer Advisory Committee, and they put forth information looking to approve deer hunting, bull only, in a few of the larger county parks. And a lot of discussion came out of that, and it was decided a lot more information needs to be obtained before we can take any further action. But that discussion is in progress, and it's because of the large deer herd in Manitowoc County, also limited public hunting grounds, and that's why this proposal has come out. So more discussion, more to come, I'm sure. Okay, then now to the resolution and the ordinances. Resolution number 5 is to accept the county conservation grant from the Wisconsin DNR in the amount of $8,705, and I so move.
So motion by Supervisor Dizak, second by Supervisor Vogel. Discussion on the motion. See none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will vote on the resolution accepting county conservation aids grant.
Supervisor Dizak, want to try once again?
Didn't I get in there? Okay.
There we go, perfect. Resolution passes 22-0.
Okay, next we have ordinance amending a zoning map for Charles and Denise, apologize if we get the name wrong, Debely, I believe it is. Dibely? Okay, thank you. To rezone 2 acres of land from large estate to small estate, and part of it is going from general ag to small estate, and also rezoning 5 acres of land from large estate back to general agriculture. This is a kind of a convoluted area, and basically all it's doing is kind of straightening up the zoning laws. It allows the owners to build a house and keep the land where they planted trees, but it also puts some land back in agriculture, and the zoning people and the tax people really appreciate this because of it kind of squares away at some of the area. And I so move for its approval.
So motion by Supervisor Dizak, second by Supervisor Niles. Discussion on the motion? See none? The clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the ordinance amending zoning map for Charles and Denise Dibely.
Ordinance passes 22-0.
Okay, next is ordinance amending zoning map for Gelato. This takes approximately 3.5 acres from general ag to small estate. The area meets the past criteria. The Eaton Town Board supports the zoning change, and minimal amount of cropland is affected by this request, and I so move.
So motion by Supervisor Dizak, second by Supervisor Gauger. Discussion on the motion? See none? The clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the ordinance amending zoning map for Jill Otto.
Ordinance passes 22-0. See, we all follow rules. It goes real quick.
That was
doesn't
good,
it?
all right. The last one is the ordinance zoning map for James Ann and Theodore Schultz. This basically takes 20 acres from exclusive ag and puts it into general ag. This is always a key area when it comes to rezoning something out of exclusive ag. But if you look at the zoning maps, this basically is a old abandoned gravel pit and a lot of woods. So there's really no farmland being taken out of service. It probably should not have been in exclusive ag to begin with, but the gentleman would like to expand his business and put basically a barn so he can have weddings in there and things of that nature. It meets past criteria for the zoning. The Mimi Town Board and Town Planning Commission supports the change, and I so move.
So motion by Supervisor Dizak, second by Supervisor Bowman. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none? The clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the ordinance amending zoning map for James Ann and Theodore Schultz.
The fish
There we
stinks
go.
from the head down, doesn't it?
My God.
Just teasing, Supervisor Dizak. The ordinance passes 22-0.
And our next meeting is tentatively scheduled for January 28th, if there's enough agenda items, and that concludes my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Dizak? Thank you very much. Public Safety Committee, Supervisor Vogel is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our meeting was held on December 12th. The Honorable Judge Bob DeWayne wished to explain the resolution supporting a Fourth Circuit Court judge for Manitowoc County. There will be a judgeship bill presented to the legislature in the near future. This is not previously presented because the most recent caseload numbers came out in late October. With these numbers, District Court Administrator John Bellows urged the local judges to make the effort to obtain county board approval and be included in the bill because a new judge here is not only needed, but mathematically is justified. With one new judge, we are nearly perfectly balanced between the need of and the number of officials. The current situation was listed as unsustainable. Judge DeWayne said he has also been speaking and working with the county exec in case the bill would prove that we would be appointed a judge that tough decisions would need to be made somewhere down the road with office space and everything else involved with a new judge. There will be a resolution I'll bring up in a minute regarding this. We had our final report given by Sheriff Robert Herman. There were 8 retirements within the department this year requiring payouts. Those retirements were not budgeted for, but are charged against department budgets. It's not possible to stay in the budget under those circumstances, and the payouts for those were approximately $200,000. Overall, there were 21 separations from the Sheriff's Department and 16 hires during 2018. In January 2019, there will be 4 retirements, which would include the sheriffs. The 2019 budget promises to be difficult as there are 2 positions held by deployed personnel that were not in the budget, but must be covered for until the individuals return back to work. There are also 22 individuals eligible to retire in 2019. The sheriff worked with the sheriff-elect Hartwig when preparing the budget this year and has volunteered to assist where he needs to if the sheriff-elect needs some administrative experience. Sheriff Herman and supervisors discussed alternative staffing options, included having deputies in the jail rather than corrections officers, as this is being done in some other counties. We also had this done years ago in Manitowoc County. The sheriff opened the squad car bids in front of the board, and Maritime Ford submitted a bid for 6 2020 Ford Police Interceptor utility vehicles at a total price of $226,160 and some odd change, with each vehicle being $37,693.34 each. Sheboygan Chev issued a bid for 6 2019 Chevrolet Tahoes in the amount of $217,620 or $36,270 each. Ewald submitted 3 different bids. The first bid was for 6 2020 Ford Police Interceptor utility vehicles for a total price of $221,688 or $36,948 each. Ewald also submitted a bid for 6 2019 Chevrolet Tahoes for $222,594 or $37,099 each. And also Ewald submitted a bid for 6 2019 Dodge Chargers for $144,876 or $24,146 each. At the recommendation of the board, it was approved to go with Sheboygan Chev for the 6 Chevrolet Tahoes for $217,620 or $36,270 each. The sheriff did mention that they did have the Chevrolet Tahoes last year, and going with the Dodge Chargers, there would be extra probably $5,000 each for changing the light bars, etc. So it was felt that the best thing would be to go with the Chev Tahoes again. Going back to the judgeship, I bring to you resolution number 9 from the county board supporting a 4th Circuit Court judge for Manitowoc County. There are some judicial workloads attached with that resolution, and I so move.
So motion by Supervisor Vogel, second by Supervisor Nichols. Discussion on the motion for the resolution? I don't see any questions. I guess I'll just ask Judge Joanne quickly. I know you mentioned you were discussing this with County Executive Ziegelbauer. Have you been talking at all with our state legislators? You know, Representative Tittle, Lemahieu? Sure, if you want to come on up here, that'd be great. Because, like you said, the bill has to be introduced, and I know the session hasn't started yet, but I guess, to me, this does seem to become a priority.
It does, and as it relates to speaking with the legislature, or legislators, we're currently the only county that's in the judgeship bill. There's 12 of them We're the only one that doesn't have a resolution of support from the county board. We don't have that because we got the numbers late. I mean, if he were here, and I told the Public Safety Committee this at the meeting, Mr. Bellows got the study released to him at 4:30 on a Tuesday. At 8 o'clock the following Wednesday morning, he was in our offices saying this is important. I've been working with and I only know his name is Tyler, I can't remember his last name, in regards to getting, talking points for the legislators and meeting with them. But he didn't want me to go to that yet until we could say we are
Have a resolution?
in a position
Okay.
where we have a resolution of support. So it's planned, hasn't happened yet.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the resolution supporting a Fourth Circuit Court judge for Manitowoc County.
Resolution passes 22-0.
Okay, Mr. Chair, our next meeting will be January 9th, 2019, and a lot of the department directors from the courthouse were asked to give a brief report during that meeting, so hopefully we'll see a lot of them again. Thank you, that's the end of my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Vogel? Thank you very much. Oh, I'm sorry, Supervisor Williams.
Just a quick note, over $1,000 was saved by not having a 0.5% sales tax on those cars.
Thank you. All right, any other questions or comments for Supervisor Vogel? Thank you again. We'll move on to Public Works. Supervisor Giroux is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Public Works Committee met Wednesday, December 12th. We reviewed the solid waste recycling program, equipment purchases, and Expo, and we talked about the bringing back the Hecker v. Bond property resolution, and which brings me to my next matter of order here, which is to introduce a resolution approving the sale of 146.36 acres of county property to Brent Sinkela for the sum of $760,730. I so move.
So motion by Supervisor Giroux, second by Supervisor Dysek. Discussion on the motion. I'll start with you, Supervisor Giroux.
Thank you. This is land that the county bought back in 1983 for $264,600 because we were going to put a landfill out there. That's no longer going to happen. It's been rented out as farmland since 1983. There haven't been any offers. Mr. Sinkela is not the farmer who is farming this land. The farmer who is farming this land has no interest in it. This is also the area where the remote-controlled flying club is out there, and Mr. Sinkela is in discussions with them. He's interested in allowing them to stay, and we've rented it out essentially for free for all these years to the flying club. He wouldn't rent it out for free, but apparently his father was involved in this group and he would do it very reasonably, and they're in conversation right now. This is not prime farmland. It's hilly, probably needs tiling, and this, again, is the property's been for sale for a long time, and this is an offer, and for this type of farmland in this location, it's between Mishicot and Two Rivers. This is a good price, and we hope you approve it. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Giroux. Discussion on the motion, starting with Supervisor Ballman.
I'm again wondering whether we should be getting appraisals on these properties, but I think on this one, since it's not close to the interstate and the city of Manitowoc isn't interested in it, I think maybe approval should be be gone forward. Thank you.
Thank you Supervisor Ballman. Supervisor Swade on the motion.
Yes, thank you. At the time the county purchased that for a landfill, agreements were made with the property owners adjacent to that, that if it became a landfill, they would have and where they were going to sell their property, that they would get an appraisal, the county would get appraisal, and if that, whatever was offered to them was less than what the appraisal, the county would make up the difference. What's the status of that now that it's being sold?
It's not a landfill,
Yeah,
so we're
I think
just,
that was, if it would've been a landfill, I guess, I mean, that was
Right.
before my time, I guess, and
right. It's,
I was just wondering if the people have been at least notified that what's happening.
Jerry?
Jerry, you wanna come speak to at the podium, that'd be great, thank you.
To my recollection, those were 20-year agreements, which all sunsetted in 2002. And to my recollection, all those agreements sunsetted in 2002. In fact, up until that time, we were paying the town of Two Rivers a payment in lieu of taxes, and that ended also in 2002.
Thank you very much, Jerry, appreciate that. Was that it, Supervisor Swade?
That's it.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments. Supervisor Hoffman, you were next.
I agree that the price on the land is very well. The biggest thing that I'm looking at is the Flying Club. The Flying Club has got a niche out there for Manitowoc County. A lot of people come from out of the state to visit this Flying Club and fly their planes. This is something that's very good for Manitowoc County. And what we're doing is we're selling the land to the farmer, and the Flying Club's gonna have to lease it. The Flying Club did make an offer to buy the 27 acres, or number 2 parcel, at $3,700. Again, it isn't what the offer came at $5,197 an acre that the farmer offered. But the Flying Club is doing good for Manitowoc County, and they have their buildings there, and they did paid for the buildings, paid for the driveway in and the blacktopping for their flying landing strips. I think that we should be looking a little bit further forward and saying, hey, that's something that they've done for Manitowoc County. This is something that is gonna draw people here, and I agree, the farmer is talking with the Flying Club now, but everybody, as far as I'm concerned, things could happen and all of a sudden their lease would have to go away, or he could make a sizable amount that they would have to pay more than what they're offering now, the $3,700. I believe that we should be leaving those two pieces separately, sold separately, and taking the offer from the Flying Club for $3,700 and the rest of the land at the thing. On the description of the land here, it says all farmable land. Well, it's not all farmable because the driveway's in there, the landing strips are in there, the buildings are in there, the brims were put around the landing strips and around the buildings. All of that would have to be removed to bring it back to farmable land. So I believe that we should be looking at splitting that back the way we originally have it listed for two plots.
Thank you for your comments, Supervisor Hoffman. Supervisor Kavanaugh, you were next.
Just a quick question. Tillable acres, is it roughly 120 acres then? You said that 20 acres would be with the Flying Club? Or 27 Okay.
And some of that is still farmable, that 27 acres, some of it is probably, I'm gonna say, I'm guessing 5 to 6 acres is still farmable that they're farming.
Okay.
Thank you, Supervisor Kavanaugh. Supervisor Hanson, you were next.
This is a point of information, or from my knowledge, it was purchased for a landfill. Is the current landfill just being expanded, or are we not concerned with that, or have the rules changed, or is recycling going so well that, is anybody, Jerry, do you know the,
Well, Jerry, basically the question was, why don't we need that property, I guess, for a landfill anymore? I know we had a tour at, right. Right. It
Okay.
was privately.
okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Hanson. Any other discussion on the motion to sell the property? I had you on, Supervisor Droll, already, but you're, please.
Thank you. In the committee, we did discuss this, and Supervisor Huffman was the person, and is the person that is sticking up for the Flying Club. At the time, the rest of us thought that the Flying Club has been out there for a long time. We've essentially been renting that property for free, practically, and that they were aware that at any time this could be sold. They did find somebody that put up this amount of money, but we didn't feel that because it was the county's land and the taxpayers are involved, we couldn't not take the total amount as a gift essentially to a private organization. We all feel that this Flying Club is a good value. They're teaching people about drones and all that sorts of thing. The fact that the farmer was willing to talk to him about staying and everything encouraged us. But even so, the rest of us felt that we'd let them work that out. Thank you.
Thank you again, Supervisor Droll. Supervisor Dizak.
Yeah, I gripped a little bit with this because of the Flying Club also. I know people that fly out there, and I feel this could very well be a win-win. The farmer did not offer just for the one part. He made one offer on the entire thing, so it's beneficial to do the sale, and I think this could be win-win for the Flying Club. They had to go out and really dig to get somebody to give money to make the offer that they did. I know they'd rather continue to lease it from us. It's really cheap. But I think because the farmer is willing to work with them and he has actually a connection to the Flying Club, I think that's going to happen. And I think that is healthy because I have the same concern. I really want that Flying Club to stay there if at all possible. But I think this could end up being a real good win-win for everybody. Thanks.
Thank you, Supervisor Dizak. Any other discussion on the resolution? Jerry, quickly, if I remember correctly, way back when we were talking, when the RC Club went there and stuff, we were actually, that was part of, we were just trying to create, or we did for a while, create a wetland bank, I guess, for properties from other places to sell credits from removing, for example, back where the Manitowoc company put up their then headquarters, we transferred some of that wetland, took that out of wetland and put it into there. Whatever happened to that? We just went by the wayside? I guess I never really did find out why. That
project died because it became apparent it wasn't going to be economically feasible.
Okay.
Moving forward with development into the annual maintenance forever.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. I didn't want to cloud the issue because that wasn't, but I just wanted to recall what happened there. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct, the supervisor died. You're flashing again. Maybe I didn't turn you off before. I always leave the chairperson on. I know I left Supervisor Droll on, but you didn't want to speak again, did you? Okay. So the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the resolution approving sale of 146.36 acres of county property to Brent Sincula for the sum of $760,730.
Supervisor Hanson, there we go. The resolution passes 19-3 with Supervisors Nichols, Vogel, and Hoffman voting no.
Report, Mr. Chair.
Any questions for Supervisor Droll? Thank you very much. Transportation Coordinating Committee, Supervisor Baumann is the chair.
No report.
Any questions? Thank you very much. Under miscellaneous, I have a resolution to appoint Jessica Backus to fill the unexpired term of the current county clerk. I will actually make that motion this time. Seconded by Supervisor Dizak. Discussion on the motion. To me, it'll be a seamless transition. Not that we're gonna miss you, Lois, don't get me wrong, but Jessica is definitely well qualified, and I couldn't even think of anybody else doing it at this time, so. Any other, Supervisor Bruner, I'm sorry.
How do we replace Jessica's position then?
The deputy clerk, she has, if she becomes clerk after the resolution, she will be able to choose the deputy clerk.
Thank you.
Okay, Supervisor Williams on the resolution.
I'm just assuming, as I'm sure Lois did many years ago, will the new county clerk bring cookies on the first meeting in January?
Thank you for that reminder, Supervisor Williams. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the resolution appointing Jessica Backus to fill the unexpired term of current county clerk.
Resolution passes 22-0. Congratulations, Jessica. All right, I know we're all anxious to get out of here, but I just got one quick announcement here, and I didn't send it out yet, and Jessica and I have been working on this, with the schedule for next year for the county board meetings. Obviously, the third Tuesday is still the majority of them. The only ones that will be different would be February 12th, which is the Tuesday before. We were gonna do it on the Tuesday before because the primary election will be the following Tuesday, so obviously the clerk's department will be busy then. The biggest one I had a question was for the one in April. As you know, the state law was changed several years ago where the town boards actually meet on the same night that they have their annual meeting on the same night. So I wanted to throw it out there because I know Supervisor Niles is on the town board, and I know a lot of you rural supervisors like to attend your town board meetings. Would you like to meet, right now I'm tentatively scheduled to be either the 9th or the 16th. The 16th is the third Tuesday. I would be willing to move it to the week before on a Tuesday to satisfy, because I know a lot of you like to attend, and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, I'm not hearing an objection to the 9th, so we'll move it to April 9th. You got that? And then the normal schedule in October, the second Tuesday, when the county executive presents his budget, the last Monday for the annual meeting. And right now, tentatively scheduled will be the Thursday, I guess, or is that a Tuesday? Is that a Tuesday? Because there was no election the first week of, usually it's been. Yeah. It is the first Tuesday, but, that can be changed as well, depending on what happens with the finance committee and the budget, but. All right, Supervisor Williams, once again.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Anything else? I just wish everybody a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, have a safe trip home and everything, and with that, we'll welcome 2019 coming. So motion by Supervisor Giroux, seconded by Supervisor Zimmer, to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Opposed?